I'm going to be discussing about or giving a brief description about the hand instruments that you would be given in the exam hall, which is usually the hatchet, hoe, and the margin trimmers, the gingival margin trimmers. The hatchet and a hoe is a type of chisel. The difference between both of them is that the hoe blade is perpendicular to the handle of the instrument. This is perpendicular, the cutting edge is perpendicular to the long axis of the instrument or the handle of the instrument. The hatchet, the blade is parallel to the long axis or the handle of the instrument. So that is the main difference between hatchet and the hoe. The next one is a gingival margin trimmer. If you see, the cutting edge has a curve to it and it kind of looks like a bevel at the tip. It's not a straight cut, but it looks like as if it's a bevel because it is used to give a bevel. And you can identify the mesial and the distal margin trimmers by the direction of this pointed part of the bevel. If you hold the instrument parallel to you, and if you see the tip pointing away from you, this tip of the bevel pointing away from you, it is a distal margin trimmer. Now, if the same bevel is pointing towards you, which is over here, it's pointing towards you, it's a mesial margin trimmer. So the difference between a distal and margin trimmer is going to be the way the tip of the bevel is basically placed. Now this is a mesial margin trimmer because the tip of the bevel is towards me and this one is away from me, so it is a distal margin trimmer. So like we study in dentistry, anything away from the midline is distal and anything towards midline is mesial. So that's how it's easy to remember. If the bevel tip is towards me, it's mesial, and if it is away from me, it is a distal margin trimmer. The other way of identifying a distal and a mesial margin trimmer is by instrument formula. Most of the instruments have either a 3-number or a 4-number formula. GMT is one of the instruments that has a 4-number formula to it, and it could be either written like this or it could be just a number that could be 10, 4, 14. The GMT usually has this 4-digit number. The number in the second number, if it ranges from 90 to 100, it is a distal margin trimmer. Now, if this number was 13, 85, 9, 15, it means a mesial margin trimmer because a mesial margin trimmer number ranges from 85 to 75. The most commonly used ones are 90 and 85 pairs for amalgam preparation. These GMTs are used for rounding or beveling of the axiopulpal line angles of two surface preparations. And the GMT, the blade is curved and the primary cutting edge is at an angle to the axis of the blade. That is why we see that bevel there, because this is at an angle, creating kind of a bevel appearance, and based on that tip we identify whether it is a mesial or a distal margin trimmer. That would be the easiest way of identifying, because not all instruments or the companies that manufacture the same instrument exhibit the instrument formula in the same way. Sometimes they have their own instrument numbers which they imprint on the instrument, hence you cannot really tell at the exam hall or figure out at the exam hall by the instrument number. So the best way is to see where the tip of the bevel or the cutting edge is, and based on that you can decide if it's a mesial or a distal margin trimmer. All the hand instruments are used to create the hatchet, the hoe, and the GMTs. They are used to create clean line angles, point angles, smooth walls, and smooth bevels.